The night was supposed to be a victory lap. Drake arrived at the Crypto.com arena in Los Angeles with the confidence of a man who had already won. Dressed in a sleek, custom-made black velvet tuxedo, he walked the red carpet with his signature cool demeanor, flashing a grin at the cameras and dapping up his peers. He had every reason to feel good. His latest album had broken streaming records. His tour had been a massive success. And most importantly, he was nominated for multiple Grammys, including the highly coveted Best Rap Album. This was supposed to be his night. As he settled into his seat, he could hear the murmurs of industry insiders and fellow artists. The room was buzzing, but Drake knew there was one name people couldn't stop talking about: Kendrick Lamar. Despite releasing his album a few months after Drake's, Kendrick had been hailed by critics as the savior of hip-hop, a title that had long been whispered about him. Drake had been here before. He had beefed with Kendrick, sent subliminal shots in his songs, and even tried to outshine him commercially. But every time, Kendrick remained unfazed, rarely addressing the feud directly. Now they were head-to-head once again on music's biggest stage. The night dragged on, with award after award being handed out. Drake clapped and nodded as he lost in smaller categories, telling himself, "It's fine. Best Rap Album is what really matters." Finally, the moment arrived. The announcer took the stage, the tension in the air thick enough to cut with a knife. "And the Grammy for Best Rap Album goes to..." A dramatic pause. "Kendrick Lamar, the heart of the struggle." The arena erupted in applause. Drake froze, the polite smile on his face barely holding up as the cameras panned to him. He gave an obligatory clap, but inside his stomach twisted. He felt the sting of yet another loss to Kendrick, yet another night where he was the commercial king, but never the respected champion. Kendrick, dressed in a minimalistic black suit, made his way to the stage. The crowd roared, and Drake could already see the social media jokes forming in real time. He clenched his jaw as Kendrick adjusted the microphone, letting the cheers settle. "Man, I appreciate y'all," Kendrick started, his voice calm but commanding. He looked around the room, his eyes briefly meeting Drake's. "This is bigger than just music. This is about truth. This is about pushing the culture forward." Drake felt a slow burn creep up his neck. Kendrick continued, "I grew up listening to the greats, the ones who weren't afraid to stand on something real, to push boundaries, to speak for the people." He paused, letting the weight of his words sink in. That's what hip-hop is. Not just catchy hooks, not just melodies. Truth. The crowd erupted in applause. A few seats away, J. Cole nodded approvingly. Even Jay-Z looked impressed. Drake felt the humiliation settle deep. It wasn't just about the loss, it was about the message. Kendrick hadn't said his name outright, but the implication was loud and clear. Drake wasn't real hip-hop. Drake sat there, forcing a smile as cameras caught his reaction. He could already hear the internet running wild with this moment. Drake loses again? Kendrick destroys Drake without even trying. The memes would be brutal. As Kendrick left the stage, trophy in hand, Drake's phone vibrated in his pocket. He knew what it was, texts from his team, from his friends, all trying to spin this in a way that didn't make him look bad. But he already knew the truth. He had lost. Again. And this time, it wasn't just about awards, it was about respect. The jet ride home was quiet. Drake sat in his private jet, staring blankly at the expensive leather interior, the dim cabin lights casting a soft glow around him. His entourage sat a few seats away, whispering amongst themselves, careful not to disturb him. His Grammy night humiliation was still fresh, replaying in his mind like a looped Instagram reel. He had tried to drown out the noise, ignored the trending hashtags, muted group chats, and even turned his phone off for most of the flight. But it didn't matter. He knew what was waiting for him the moment he landed. The plane touched down in Toronto, the icy wind greeting him like a cold slap to the face as he stepped onto the tarmac. Normally, coming home felt like a reset, a place where he was untouchable, where he was more than just a rapper, but a national icon. But tonight, something felt off. As he walked through the private terminal, his assistant, Mark, rushed up, phone in hand, his face twisted in concern. "Yo, you seen the news?" Mark asked hesitantly. Drake sighed, adjusting his cashmere coat. What now? Mark hesitated, then handed him the phone. Drake took a deep breath and looked. Canada in crisis. Transportation failures leave cities paralyzed. Economic turmoil. Sky-high tax rates pushing businesses to the brink. Drake's eyebrows furrowed as he scrolled through the headlines. Apparently in his absence, Canada had descended into chaos. A massive logistics breakdown had left major cities in gridlock. Delivery routes were backed up. Gas shortages were affecting travel, and essential goods weren't moving fast enough. People were stuck, literally and figuratively. And then came the tax news. The US had quietly implemented new tax policies that were hitting foreign business owners hard. For someone like Drake, who had multiple properties, investments, and ventures in America, it meant bleeding money on all fronts. Drake exhaled sharply, rubbing his temples. Kendrick had embarrassed him, and now his home country was imploding. This some kind of joke? He muttered, shaking his head. It gets worse, Mark said. Trump just tweeted about it. Drake's head snapped up. What? Mark swiped and handed the phone back. Real Donald Trump. Canada is stuck. Big mess up there, folks. Sad. Maybe they should focus less on being so nice and more on fixing their broken system. Even their big rapper just lost badly at the Grammys. Not good. Drake stared at the tweet. His blood boiled. The humiliation at the Grammys was one thing. But this? Trump was laughing at Canada, laughing at him. Drake clenched his jaw. Enough was enough. Without saying a word, he turned and started walking toward the black SUV, waiting for him outside. Where we headed? Mark called after him. Drake pulled his OVO hoodie over his head. His voice was low but firm. To the studio. The drive to the studio was silent, except for the occasional hum of the tires rolling over the wet pavement. Toronto's skyline loomed in the distance, its usual glow dampened by the gloomy weather. Drake sat in the back of the black SUV, staring out the window, his mind racing. He had spent his entire career dodging public political battles. He was an artist first, a businessman second, never the kind to get entangled in wars with presidents or governments. But tonight, he wasn't thinking like Drake, the global superstar. He was thinking like Aubrey, the kid from Toronto, the one who had spent years building himself up, only to be mocked on the world stage by a president who treated everything like a reality show. The words in Trump's tweet rang in his head. Even their big rapper just lost badly at the Grammys. Not good. It was bad enough being humiliated in the industry. Now he was being dragged into politics? He gritted his teeth, gripping his phone so hard his fingers turned white. He refreshed Twitter again. Trending topics. #Drake lost, #Trump clowns, Canada, #Kendrick wins again. Everywhere he looked, it was slander, jokes, disrespect. It felt like the entire world was laughing at him. Yo, we almost there, his driver said, breaking the silence. Drake didn't answer. He just stared at the Twitter app before locking his phone and looking up at Mark, his assistant. Call 40, Drake said, his voice dead serious. Mark blinked. Right now? Right now. Mark hesitated for a second, then dialed. The call rang twice before Noah 40 Shaba, Drake's longtime producer and closest collaborator, picked up. Yo, what's up? 40's voice came through the car's Bluetooth. You at the studio? Drake asked. Yeah, just messing around with some beats. What's good? Drake took a breath. Load something up. I'm on my way. 40 paused. What kind of vibe we talking? Drake looked back down at his phone, scrolling past Trump's tweet one last time before locking the screen. War, the studio session, a different kind of diss track. By the time Drake stepped into Soda Studios, his energy had shifted. 40 was already at the mixing board, the room dimly lit by the neon glow of the studio equipment. The scent of burning candles filled the space, his usual recording ritual, but tonight it felt different. Drake didn't waste time. He pulled off his jacket, tossed it onto a chair, and grabbed the mic. You already got something for me? He asked 40. 40 nodded, pressing a few keys on his laptop. I had this beat I was working on, real aggressive, real raw. The speakers boomed as a dark, eerie trap beat filled the room. Heavy bass, haunting piano keys, something straight out of a war zone. Drake nodded. Run that back. 40 restarted the track. Drake stood there, eyes closed, feeling the rhythm. His mind was moving fast. The words came naturally, flowing from pure frustration, anger, and ego. He grabbed his phone and started typing. Bars, punchlines, shots, for Trump, for the Grammys, for everyone laughing at him. After a few minutes, he stepped into the booth. The red light flicked on, and then Drake started rapping. The lyrics, no holds barred. The first few lines hit like a sledgehammer. How you run a country but can't even run a tweet, right? Talking about my loss, but your whole team weak, right? You playing leader, but the people don't believe hype Canada been cold. But we ain't never need ice. The room went silent. Even 40 raised his eyebrows. Drake was not holding back. He kept going. You talking numbers? Let's talk about your debt, huh? You run America the same way you left your ex, huh? Messy, reckless, everything a flex, huh? Taxing us to death while your pocket's getting stretched, huh? Drake took a breath, letting the anger fuel him. This wasn't about just Trump, it was about the Grammys, Kendrick, the disrespect, the taxes, the entire system. It was a war cry, and then he delivered the knockout punch. You worried about a rapper when the country need fixin'? Broke boys on your payroll, steady politicking. Y'all the real joke. Whole squad full of gimmick. Only time you run the games when Russia do the clicking. 40 nearly choked on his drink. Yo, he muttered under his breath. Drake ignored him, finishing his verse with a sharp, decisive tone. He stepped out of the booth, his chest rising and falling. He didn't smile. He didn't joke. He just looked at 40. Mix that, the aftermath. The internet explodes. By the next morning, the song had dropped without warning. The title? 6 p.m. in America. It was trending within minutes. Hashtag Drake vs. Trump nar 6 p.m. in America had Canada claps back everywhere from hip-hop blogs to CNN. People were talking. Fox News was outraged. Rappers reacted in real time. Politicians weighed in. But then came the moment everyone was waiting for. Trump's response. The tweet hit just after 10 a.m. At Real Donald Trump. Washed up rapper mad. So, fake Drake is finished. Drake saw the tweet as he sat in his penthouse, phone in hand. He smirked. Trump was mad. The industry was watching. And Drake wasn't done yet. The world had stopped to watch the war between Drake and Trump unfold. Within hours of releasing 6 p.m. in America, the song was the #1 trending topic globally. Social media was ablaze. Some hailed it as a historic diss track, while others accused Drake of biting off more than he could chew. Hip-hop legends chimed in. Pusha T laughed. Kanye stayed silent. J. Cole played neutral. Even Kendrick, the man who had started Drake's downward spiral at the Grammys, posted a cryptic tweet. Oh, we politicking now? Drake knew what that meant. This wasn't just a diss track against a politician. It was a move that put him in a new battlefield. And Trump? Predictably, he fired back. After his initial tweet, he took things a step further. At Real Donald Trump. Drake is a failure, always losing. Canada should be ashamed. No hits, just whining. Sad. The mainstream media jumped in. Fox News ran segments tearing into Drake, calling him a soft millionaire crying over taxes. CNN, on the other hand, called it one of the boldest political diss tracks ever. And then, the biggest escalation yet. The White House press secretary was asked about the song during a briefing. A reporter read Drake's lyrics aloud, asking if the president had a response. The spokesperson chuckled before answering. The president is focused on leading this great nation, not on rap battles with struggling artists. The room burst into laughter. Struggling artist. Drake felt that one. Drake's dilemma. Where to go from here? For the first time in his career, Drake wasn't just the center of a hip-hop debate. He was being politically targeted. His name was being dragged on news networks. His business ties in the US were suddenly under scrutiny. Some of his sponsors even got nervous, quietly advising him to focus on the music. But how could he ignore it now? Kendrick had embarrassed him. The Grammys had dismissed him. Trump had clowned him. Even his home country was in crisis. Drake sat alone in his Toronto penthouse staring out at the cold skyline. He had two choices: retreat, drop it, move on. Let the world forget about 6 p.m. in America and focus on another hit song about love, money, and success. Double down. Drop a whole album, not just about Trump, but about everything. The politics, the industry, the betrayal. A project that could redefine his legacy. His phone buzzed. Text from 40. Album? Drake exhaled. He already knew the answer. He picked up his phone and typed 2 words. Let's cook. And just like that, the war wasn't over. It was just beginning.